and thank you all for tuning in. I'm Sash. You can find me on Twitter at LTARSENAL. A beautiful sunny day today in London, and on the occasion of my first ever transfer segment, I thought, why not come in front of the Emirates Stadium and do it? I do regret it a little bit as it's a super windy day. Trains are just flying past every 5 minutes and people are about. So apologies for any background noise. I hope you guys will not find it too disturbing, and we can get straight into the segment today. So to start off with the links, first and foremost, Arsenal linked with the move for Gabriel Jesus. As per numerous sources, we're confident of bringing the player, and this comes from sources really close to the club. And one of my learnings from the transfer window is that if someone from the club, someone close to the club comes out and says that we're super keen on a player or we're confident on a player, usually it ends up happening, and that is the case with Gabriel Jesus. As you know, Arteta has worked with him before. Edu knows him from the Brazil national team setup. The player reportedly wants to come here. His agents also are pushing for an Arsenal move. And today, The Athletic put out a report stating that Man City want 50 million, even though they don't really need the money. So we're pretty hopeful that a compromise can be reached for Gabriel Jesus. It's one to keep an eye out for. I think we'll get this done. I think it's pretty imminent, to be honest. Probably in the next week, we should have more clarity on it. But this definitely seems like a transfer that we are the favourites for. And despite interest from the likes of Chelsea, Real Madrid, amongst others, it seems like Arsenal are the favourites for the player. And personally, I think, we're going to get this one over the line. Next comes Youri Tielemans, yet another player that has been linked for ages. As I said in my previous video where I analysed Tielemans, the player's first links was in January, where Ben Jacobs reported that Arsenal are interested in the player. This was then further reported by Charles Schwartz, who said that we'll go back for the player in the summer. So, well, the links are again heating up for Tielemans as well. Reports in Belgium suggest that Arsenal are pretty optimistic of getting this one done. There's an optimism amongst the parties. This comes from HLN a few days ago that stated that after the last game that Belgium played, the last international game, that Youri Tielemans' transfer to Arsenal will progress faster. Yesterday there was a report from a Leicester City outlet as well that stated that the deal is pretty likely to happen. This is something that's echoed by numerous journalists, Ben Jacobs especially, who has a very good source on this Tielemans deal. He was the first to break the news, and he expects Tielemans to be an Arsenal player before this month ends. So that's another really interesting one to keep an eye out on. I think with both Jesus and Tielemans, we'll have a lot of clarity in the next week. So really keep an eye out for that one. Then the link from today, which I really found super fascinating, was Lisandro Martinez. Arsenal were linked with a whole host of left backs, which also included the likes of Zinchenko and as well Aaron Hickey. But the fact that we're looking at Lisandro Martinez was also capable of playing as a centre back in addition to playing as a left back. Some even say that he can play in defensive midfield. So another versatile player with incredible technical quality. And I, for one, am really behind this signing because I would really like some variety in terms of our left back options. Tierney is a superb overlapping left back, but I would also like someone who's comfortable at inverting that, not named Granit Xhaka. So I think Lisandro Martinez is a really positive development for Arsenal in this regard. And David Ornstein said that the player is keen on coming here. Of course, Ajax rejected our first bid of 30 million euros. But personally, if you're to ask me, I'm pretty confident that Arsenal will go in with a bigger bid, and then it'll be interesting to see how Ajax respond to it. So the fact that the player's desire is that he wants to come here is pretty exciting for me, and he's yet another option that's again come out of the blue. These were links that were not really present at Arsenal, not concrete links before yesterday, which I really didn't see coming, by the way. Speaking of yesterday, Fabio Vieira totally came out of the blue. I really need to stop saying Fabio Silva just because he reminds me of Bernardo Silva, and there's also a Wolves player called Fabio Silva. So Fabio Vieira. I'm just going to keep saying it until I get this one right. But that link again was another that came out of the blue, which goes to show you that Arsenal are doing their business really quietly behind the scenes, getting the negotiations done. And we're only really hearing about the deal when it's gone to the stage of us actually placing a bid. So really interesting stuff. I didn't see this coming. I felt we would have a good summer, but we're linked with so many players, concrete links, and we're actually making moves, bids for these players. So I find that super interesting. Another interesting thing in that Athletic article was that it stated that Youri Tielemans could come here, but it would be contingent on Granit Xhaka leaving. But I think the way it was written, it wasn't written as a concrete fact. It was written more as nuance and opinion. Because if you look at it logically, yeah, ideally we have to lose one central midfielder for us to sign both Tielemans and Vieira. Vieira is already done. So for us to sign Tielemans, it's only logical that we lose another central midfielder. But I also would like to say that losing Granit Xhaka is something that personally I wouldn't be for in the short term, at least for this season. I would like us to sign Tielemans as well and keep Xhaka. It's okay if you have a couple of extra options. So that's another interesting thing to keep an eye out on. But personally, I'm not reading too much into it because Ben Jacobs and many other reliable journalists believe that Tielemans will be an Arsenal player before the end of this month. So I think Tielemans is still signing for Arsenal. We've really pursued this deal for a long time. So I personally don't see a situation in which we kind of bottle Tielemans or something like that. In addition to that, there's also interest in Raphinha of Leeds. Again, super concrete. Like every top Arsenal journalist has reported on our interest in the player, which for me is again super fascinating. I love Raphinha. I think he's one of the most talented wingers in the Premier League. Very well-rounded player. If you look at his defensive metrics, really good as well. Really works hard for the team, and I think he'll be a super player to have in the team. People say we have Saka in that position, but for me, both Raphinha and Saka are capable of playing a plethora of roles. So having Saka on the left flank, Raphinha on the left flank, it won't make a huge difference to me personally. So again, I'm really looking forward to getting this deal over the line. It's been reported that it could be contingent on Nicolas Pepe leaving. I will come to Pepe when I discuss the outgoings at Arsenal, but the very fact that we're looking at Raphinha, the very fact that Barcelona have cooled down their interest in the player suggests to me that, yeah, this is something which could happen a bit later on in the window. It's obviously not got into the stage where we put out a bid or something for the player, but I think eventually it will get to that stage, obviously contingent on Pepe. So for me, this is another super interesting one. Victor Osimhen as well. I was wondering yesterday if in addition to Jesus, we sign either a winger or another centre forward and move Jesus out wide. Personally, I think Jesus is going to be the starting centre forward for Arsenal this season, and as much as I'm sure there's a lot of interest in Osimhen from Arsenal, I would still think that we sign a wide player as opposed to another centre forward for this season. Maybe Osimhen is someone we pursue further down the line. So I'm quite interested to see what happens with regards to that one as well. Would Arsenal surprise the world and drop 80 million at the end of July? Let's see. I'm really not sure after yesterday's events. Anything is possible in all honesty, but I can definitely see Arsenal signing a winger or a centre forward in addition to Jesus. And as Charles Watts said, even after some of these incomings, we still have a lot of business to do. So really interesting to see what happens. Even in terms of the done deals, Fabio Vieira is done. He's having his medical today with Arsenal, and I hope that it will get announced over the weekend. Let's see if Arsenal's social media team does it fast or whether we delay it a bit to next week. Either way, it's a done deal, so that's all that matters. Who cares when he's announced? We also have announced the signing of Marquinhos, another very interesting player. It'll be interesting to see how he fits in at Arsenal, whether Arsenal actually groom him in the Europa League or choose to send him on loan. He's going to join with Arsenal in pre-season, so perhaps we get a better idea of how he is, what his level is really at. We're also going to announce the signing of Matt Turner next week. He's going to arrive at Arsenal next week. This has been reported by James Benge. Apologies for the noise of the train once again. James Benge of CBS Sports, superb journalist. He reports that Matt Turner will join Arsenal next week. So pretty good progress in terms of the incomings and potential incomings. Now let's go to the outgoings. I actually need my phone, my mobile, to check the players because we have so many players that could go out. To start off with, we have Matteo Guendouzi. He's obviously going to leave and join Marseille for 10 million euros, which I think is very less, to be honest, for a player who's a French international. He's captained the France under-21s as well. I think 10 million isn't much, but it is what it is. Charles Watts in his video did tell us to keep an eye out on it, and that perhaps he could be officially unveiled as a Marseille player in the coming week. We also have Bernd Leno, who's been strongly linked with the move to Fulham. In the past, it's been reported that he loves London, and his wife right now, congratulations to him, as well loves staying in London. So I wouldn't be surprised if he joins Fulham, even though it's probably a step down for a player of his quality, a fantastic shot stopper, no matter what you think about how he is on the ball. And I really always liked Leno at Arsenal. I think he's been a good servant for us in the past. And when our defense was shocking in some of the past seasons with Socrates and players like that, it was Leno saving us more often than not. So good luck to him. I actually think he will end up joining Fulham. It's also good that we're looking to sell within the Premier League, because a lot of the other leagues are pretty broke, but the money is there in the Premier League. So to sell in the Premier League, to sell within the Premier League is a good idea in my opinion. We also have Pablo Mari. Now, good luck finding someone that is willing to pay transfer fees for this guy. He's obviously been linked with a whole host of Serie A clubs, but those guys are going to do like a loan with an option, and then when they have to exercise the option, they're going to tell us they're broke and not end up signing the player in a similar way they did to Lucas Torreira. So I don't have much hope with regards to getting money for Pablo Mari. One thing I do know is that he'd probably be loaned out or even somehow sold for maybe 1 or 2 million to some team with a loan fee of 1 or 2 million. So let's see how that goes, whether we actually end up selling Pablo Mari. I think there'll surely be someone that wants him, but we probably are not recouping what we paid for him, which is a bit of a pity. We then go to Maitland Niles, who's been linked with the move to Nottingham Forest, who obviously are going to lose Yet Spence. I know he's a Middlesbrough player, but I expect them to obviously want a replacement for the player. The exclusive comes from Scott Wilson of the Northern Echo. Super reliable journalist, a really good outlet as well. A lot of these regional outlets are really good at breaking some of these exclusives, and often they don't get the plaudits they deserve. It's usually the big journalists that get the plaudits for the exclusive they find, but more often than not, a lot of these scoops are from smaller outlets. So let's give them some of the recognition they deserve. Lucas Torreira is another player I don't think we're going to get transfer fee for. Fiorentina obviously have backstabbed him and have not exercised his option. They're paying us like 7 million, and apparently we're so irritated with what they're doing that we just decided not to sell him to Fiorentina. But it'll be interesting to see if another Serie A club comes calling. He's obviously so good for that league, so I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to another Serie A club. The next is Reiss Nelson. Initially, reports from Netherlands suggested that he will return to Arsenal for pre-season. It'll be quite interesting to see what the future holds for him. I actually always really have a soft spot for Nelson. I think he's a huge talent. Just has to believe in himself a little bit more. He has all the talent in the world. I don't see him staying at Arsenal this season. I could see him being loaned or sold. But honestly, best of luck to him wherever he goes. He's a Haylander. He's a proper Arsenal guy, and I hope he goes on to have a successful career. Now the big one, Nicolas Pepe. He's not been linked with a single move away from Arsenal for the entirety of this window. I mean, we all know that he wants to leave the club. We know the club want to sell him, but we've not seen enough links to really suggest that the player is going to be out of the club. Obviously, there are two elements to consider here. I could see a team actually paying 25-30 million for Pepe. The issue is his wages, which is reported somewhere around 140k a week. I don't know which team is going to take that on board. It has to be some team like Newcastle perhaps, or a team within the Premier League willing to take a punt on a player like Pepe, who, by the way, in the right system, he can give you goal contributions. It'll be interesting to see if he returns to France, maybe even PSG or a team like that, you know. And PSG are supposedly linked with the former Lille coach that Pepe really thrived off. Galtier, I think his name is. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but PSG are linked with him. And maybe could he go to PSG? I really wonder, you know, could he go back to PSG? Could he go to PSG and reunite with his former boss? It's one to keep an eye out for, I think. Obviously, Arsenal want to sell Pepe. It'll be a huge thing for the club. But I still think if you're not able to find a buyer for Pepe, I think we still part ways with him. It could be a loan with an option or an obligation to buy. It could be some kind of an innovative deal like that, because obviously we want to bring in a white player, and Pepe is not someone that's fancied by Arteta anymore. So I expect him to leave, but I think it'll be pretty late in the window. We have Nuno Tavares as well. Di Marzio reporting on Atalanta's interest in the player yesterday. And I, for one, will be surprised if he stays at Arsenal next season. I don't think Arteta particularly trusts the guy. But I think on the other hand, Arsenal do rate the player. The fact that we valued him at 40 million as per Di Marzio tells you everything you need to know, that this guy has some pretty high upside as well. And I think with the way Atalanta plays, the way Gasperini sets up Atalanta, he has the fullback high and wide, and I think the system there will really suit Nuno and be pretty good for his development and probably give him the confidence to become the player that we know he's capable of being. We've seen flashes of it, but he just needs more match practice as well. And I think maybe a move to Atalanta, even if it's just a straight loan and we're not able to get money for him, would be good. Maybe he has a really good season and we get a good amount of money for him next season. So for me, that's another one to keep an eye out for. Apart from this, that's pretty much it actually regarding the outgoings. Another interesting one to keep an eye out on is Granit Xhaka, who's been linked with the move away from Arsenal today by the Athletic. They don't really specify a club, but they mentioned that it could be a possibility that he leaves, and they speculate, as I said earlier, that he might have to leave for us to secure the signing of Youri Tielemans. Let's see what happens. I think maybe Roma could reignite their interest. You never know. They were interested in him last summer. Obviously, Mourinho loves the player. They're also in the Europa League right now after their Conference League victory. And I think someone like Granit Xhaka would be so perfect for them. He'd be really good in a league like the Serie A, which is more tactical as opposed to having the sort of intensity the Premier League has. So I, for one, am really looking forward to seeing what the future holds for Xhaka. Part of me wants to keep him in the short term, but obviously I don't think he's going to just stay here as a squad player. So it's going to be another interesting one to keep an eye out for, in my opinion. Now I'm going to try to answer some of your questions that you asked me. Thank you so much for the questions you asked. I really appreciate it. Let me just quickly find it. Okay, so we start off with Katie Miller. She says, do we need to buy another Pepe, or is there another Saka already at the club? It's a very interesting question. I do think either ways that the club wants to sign a wide forward. Now, Mikel Arteta did say that Arsenal should be a team that scores about 100 goals in the season. And I think the direction that Arsenal are going to take throughout this window is to bring in more proven players that have been in the Premier League, been there, done that, can come in and immediately make an impact. I think we have a few gems in the youth team. I actually went for a few youth games and was so impressed with the way Marcelo Flores plays. Really like the way he plays, his dribbling style, and I think he could be an important player for Arsenal in the future. Omari Hutchinson as well. Perhaps we decide to loan him out. I'm not sure, but it'll be interesting to see if one of these gems do step up. I think there are quite a few candidates, and it'll be interesting to see how they do in pre-season, which players stay here. I expect some of them to get game time in the Europa League as well. So quite interested to see how that progresses. Alex says, any updates on Serge Gnabry's situation? Look, Alex, even I would love Serge Gnabry here. For me, he would be the total game changer at Arsenal. The guy that can score you 12, 13 goals from an XG of 7 or 8. For me, that would be the total game changer at Arsenal. However, we haven't really heard anything much since the report from Bild that stated that Arsenal are interested in the player. It's not gone beyond interest. So I'm not sure if you're going to get this one over the line for this window. Even the Athletic didn't seem so optimistic over this. So I think it's more fantasy than reality, to be honest. But who knows, if Arsenal do a deadline day madness where Serge Gnabry returns to the club, I'm sure we'll all be here really trying to welcome him and celebrating his return. So it would be the return of the Prince. But maybe we could do that deal next summer. He has, I think, a year or two left on his deal with Bayern. So it'll be interesting to see Bayern have to make a call on his future. They can't just keep him. I think he has a year left on his deal, actually. So I don't think Bayern can just keep him. He'll have to extend his contract. I don't think he's valued at Bayern enough. Also, one more thing I can say is, based on some of the people I've been speaking to at Bayern, there's a lot of friction within the club, especially at board level, with regards to the funding they get from Qatar. Now, a lot of German clubs are typically more ethical than some of the English clubs, and there's a huge debate going on at Bayern Munich, even within the boardroom, of is it good or not to actually get the funding from Qatar. And I feel their financial capability has really taken a hit in the recent seasons, even this year. the fact that they're not able to give Lewandowski the sort of deal that he feels valued by pretty much shows you the state of the club right now. So it's quite interesting because Arsenal seem to have the money. I don't know if it's the owner, I don't know where they're getting the money from, but we seem to have the money. And I'm pretty sure that we could give Gnabry the type of deal he would like. And I'm pretty sure he would like to come here as well because he loves the club. You see him wearing the jersey many times. And people I know at Bayern who even met Gnabry, live around that area, what they tell me is that Gnabry is a total family guy, a top person. And sometimes he's even seen with his Arsenal gear out in Munich, which is pretty cool and tells you everything you need to know about the players. So this is something which is interesting. At myg_Arsenal says departures. I just spoke about the departures. A whole host of players who are linked with the move away from Arsenal. It's hard to say how much we get for some of these players. But the good thing is a lot of them seem to be linked with the move within the Premier League, which I think augurs well because the Premier League clubs have the money. And hopefully we can make, 40, 50 million at least from player sales. That'll go a long way for the club. An interesting debate for Arsenal is, do we first sign our targets? Do we wait to part ways with some of our players before waiting for some incomings? I think the approach Arsenal are taking is we're going bang bang on the incomings. I think with the 5 subs rules, for the 5 subs rule, and as well we're playing in multiple competitions this season. We're actually serious of challenging in some of these competitions. I think Arsenal want to have a bigger squad, so it really wouldn't surprise me if we actually end up keeping some of the players we want to sell if we're not able to get the right deal for them and still adding to our squad. Apologies for the wind once again, it's pretty crazy. El Jeffe says the emerging Brazilian presence at Arsenal and whether it can match the French presence that Wenger had from 97 to 2005. Very interesting. Again, I think a lot of it is down to Edu, the technical director, obviously the Brazilian influence. I think Brazilian players are really nice as well because they have such good work ethic off the ball. All of them are such hungry players. I love how they play, and we're building a pretty interesting core of Brazilians at Arsenal. It's not like that English core or British core we had a few years ago, which was full of decent players apart from a couple of them. I think some of these Brazilian ballers are really serious players as well, and South Americans as well. So I'm really excited to see how we build this and build this even further. I think a lot of even the Chelsea teams of the past that were successful in the recent past had a huge South American contingent. A lot of the signings were by Kia Joorabchian as well, influenced through him rather. So quite excited to see how this contingent grows together at Arsenal. Obviously, it's nice that they have a set of people they can look up to that can help them integrate to the club. For example, someone like Marquinhos will, I'm sure Martinelli and players like that will help him integrate with the club. So really interesting point that made by you. AFCJ says, over the past years, we've been linked heavily with Abraham, Isaac, or attempted Vlahovic to buy a physical, imposing CF. Do you think we've now changed direction? Well, very interesting point again. I think the striker market is so bad, first and foremost, that it's gotten to a point where it's really hard to find value in this market. I think Vlahovic was a superb player. I actually said a year ago that we should go for Vlahovic when his value was much lesser. But we went for him in January when he was at like 75 million. I still think he would be worth it. I still think someone like Osimhen would be worth the 75, 80 million should we decide to go down that direction. But I don't think we are for this window. I don't know if Arsenal have a surprise in mind. Surely seems like a change in direction to bring in Jesus. But I think Jesus does bring with him his own strengths. He's a very mobile player, really good in some of these tight spaces. And I think we'll be a really fluid team with a player like that up front. I think we might be still a season away from really completing the squad with an imposing CF, someone that can head the ball and show a great athleticism with his running in behind. But I'm still personally really happy with Gabriel Jesus. I think he's one of the best pressing forwards around, and for me this is the type of signing that can really change the way Arsenal attack. Massive upgrade on Lacazette, of course. So I, for one, am so excited by this signing, and I totally get your point about changing direction, but I still think it's better than what we did in 2017, signing Lacazette for 50 million, then 4 or 5 months later signing Aubameyang with no clear idea of how to fit both of them together. So I hear your point on a change of direction. I do think that Arsenal have changed direction. Maybe not, it was not what they wanted, but I think Jesus is the market opportunity that's presented itself, and I think we really can't say no to a player like this. Starts for Brazil, Premier League proven, won titles for Man City. I saw the stat that said that he has like one of the highest goals and assist contributions rate in the Premier League. I think it's after Henry and Ronaldo or something like that. So I think Jesus is going to be a phenomenal player for Arsenal. Mikhail Dolkin says, any thoughts on Nketiah rumours on wearing the number 14 jersey? Well, it's actually just been confirmed by Charles Schwartz. You probably have seen the article as well. By now, Charles Schwartz has confirmed that Eddie Nketiah will sign a new contract and wear the number 14 jersey previously worn by Thierry Henry. For me, it's not really a surprise that we gave him this deal. Obviously, it's almost like we're signing a free agent because we ran down his contract, hence the big wage, and as well the fact that we're giving him the number 14. I think it's a good thing personally. We're encouraging some of the young players. Even Smith Rowe had only like a couple of goals at Arsenal before we gave him the number 10 jersey, and he really made a step up after that last season. So I think it's really encouraging. I think Eddie is a great guy. He really works hard, and I think he deserves the contract. I, for one, have always clamored for us giving Eddie a new contract, and for me, it's a good decision by the club. And I think number 14 jersey, it's symbolic. Obviously, I get that fans want a top player to wear the number 14 jersey, but I think Jesus, for example, would prefer the number 9 anyway. So the number 14 would be vacant if that happens. So totally cool with us giving it to Eddie, and really happy for him that he has a new contract. Congratulations for him. We expect that to be announced in the coming days, so keep an eye out for that. Hopefully you guys won't melt down after seeing him wearing the number 14 jersey. So I'm just warning you in advance. Semperfi Arsenal says, what was your feeling when you first got to know you will be going to the Emirates to watch this live, and what was your feeling when you were standing in front of the Emirates? So I actually came here back in 2017 the first time, and the feeling was incredible. It still is incredible. You know, every time I come here I just feel like I'm at home. I feel like this is a place where I don't know how to put it. It's just a special place. I think I live about like 25 minutes by tube away from the Emirates, so it's pretty convenient for me to come. It's also one line, so I try to come here as often as I can, whether it's for a run, just to go around the place. And in terms of the matches, it's just incredible, to be honest. I just love the passion people have. I also love the diversity, to be honest, like so many people from different countries. I really love that. I love that thing about London in general. It's not something that's specific to the Emirates, but about London in general. The diversity is just amazing. And I, for one, really love that, because I think you can learn something new from each person, from each type of person, from different parts of the globe, and you can take something nice from every culture. So that's something I really like. And yeah, the Emirates is my home, and like obviously it's my ambition to one day be a season ticket holder, but until then I guess I just have to stick to getting the tickets off the exchange. But that's also been a really nice thing for me, because I've been able to sit in a number of different locations and get a feel of different viewpoints in the Emirates. So on that sense, yeah, I think the season has been incredible in many ways for me, and I'll never forget like the first time I entered. And I hope that every foreign fan gets to experience it, gets to experience this, because I think not a lot, but some of the local fans kind of look down upon the foreign fans. I think most fans at the Emirates are really welcoming, but I'm sure there's a small minority on social media especially that seems to be pretty against foreign fans, and I for one will never get it. You guys want foreign players, you guys want foreign investment, you guys don't want foreign fans? Come on, like that's for me is pretty ridiculous. People say support your local and all that, but for me, I've supported Arsenal from the age of 9, and I supported Arsenal because of like I don't know, as a 9-year-old, just seeing the way we played. We had like a lot of young players, but even we were able to like dominate a team like Sir Alex's United team, which was full of stars. When they came to the Emirates, they parked the bus and they used to counter-attack essentially. And for me, that was what Arsenal was about. Such a strong philosophy that even with kids, a team as good as United would come here and sit back. And I really fell in love with Arsenal for how we play, the DNA of the club. And once again, I hope every foreign fan gets to experience this at least once. And if you're a young fan, this is probably something that can motivate you, you know, to do well in life, that you can come to and watch the Arsenal play whenever you want to. So those are like life goals. I know a few season ticket holders who don't live in London but fly in here to watch Arsenal play. And for me, obviously, that's a long-term goal, to be able to go to any Arsenal game from anywhere. So yeah, that's something for you guys to think about as well. I think you should apply for the season ticket. Maybe you get it in 10 to 15 years, and it would be probably once you've really established yourself, your career, you can come here and watch Arsenal play. The next question is, why do you see Arteta deploying Fabio Vieira? It seems the suggestion is at right wing, but if we also buy Raphinha, that's too many players for that position, right? Good question again. I think personally we have to embrace squad depth. I feel like we shouldn't say that we already have a player in this position. I think Arsenal are at a stage where we just have to buy quality players, stack the squad with quality players, sign players. If you find a good player, sign him. Be like Man City, where you have 2 quality starting 11s, and really look to play the best player. Let them all compete with each other. I think the problem with this fan base is that people are attached to certain players. For example, when Ben White signed, many fans had an agenda against him just because they liked William Saliba. Come on now, let the best player play for Arsenal. How does it matter which player you like? We want what's best for Arsenal, and for me, we should just stack the squad. Doesn't matter who plays, as long as the player that deserves to play is playing. And for me, yeah, I wouldn't mind if we stack the squad. And also, a lot of these players like Xhaka are pretty versatile as well, even Raphinha for that matter. So I, for one, am pretty excited to see where these players fit in. If the signing we think are close get done, what is the priority for the remainder of the window? Well, I think you say Jesus, Tielemans, Vieira. I think obviously a versatile left back. I think it could be Lisandro Martinez, and as well a wide player, which could be Raphinha. Be interesting to see who we get in, but I can definitely see Arsenal signing 2 more players even after that, especially considering we'll have more than a month left by the time some of these deals are completed. Ben says, how can all of these signings fit into the current Arsenal team? Well, it's hard to say how they'll all fit in, but what I can say is that we have a bigger squad. And once again, I repeat the point that I said a few minutes ago, which is that let the best player play. And even someone like Fabio Vieira can play in a number of different positions. It's hard to say where he might play. He might play where Odegaard plays. He might play from the left. Where Xhaka was playing the left 8 role, he might play instead of Saka. It's pretty flexible. So I, for one, am pretty excited by that. And I think Mikel is also looking at players who are flexible and adaptable to play in a number of different roles. Okay, Chukwu Basel says, do you think Marquinhos will be a breakout star during pre-season? Do you think he can adequately replace Pepe so we don't spend on Raphinha? I think personally that he will be given a chance in pre-season, but I think he could be loaned out for the coming season, maybe even back to Brazil. I think Arsenal will look to sign a more established player, someone like Raphinha, to come in and guarantee us like good amount of output from the start, and not really look to rely on inexperience again this season. I expect that to be a change that we make this season. So quite interested to see how that pans out. If you're able to sign Raphinha or not, maybe Marquinhos is the guy we play as the backup in the event Raphinha is not possible. Lastly, Johnny Dog says, how will Arsenal's midfield cope without the personality Xhaka shows, his ability to progress the ball and dictate the speed of build-up? How we missed those aspects without him last summer. Totally agree, Johnny. I think Granit Xhaka is a super important player for Arsenal in a number of different ways. His leadership, the composure he brings to midfield, which is why I, for one, thought that we should keep him for another season. I totally agree with the fact that the team has evolved from Xhaka. The left 8 role doesn't really require Granit Xhaka to be there anymore. But I do think that having him just for one season to let some of these young players integrate would be a really good option from Arsenal. So I really agree with you that I think Xhaka is underrated. There's a lot of unwarranted stick from some sections of the fan base. We have to recognize what the player can and cannot do. I do think the system has evolved from Xhaka, I really do. But on the other hand, you don't have to say that he's horrible or something. You have to recognize his qualities and what he can bring to the team. So I, for one, am expecting Granit Xhaka to be an important player for Arsenal next season as well. So thank you all for tuning in. That brings me to the end of this. It's just been 35 minutes of me yapping away to glory. So thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this. If you haven't already, please leave a sub. And I'll keep you updated with all the latest transfer news and happenings around the club. And on that note, please take care and have a great weekend. And thank you all for tuning in once again. Until next time.